In 2019, YouTube was caught violating the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. Since settling, YouTube has enacted new policies that are meant to serve as a smokescreen so they can dodge responsibility and scapegoat creators. As such, for my own protection, it is my obligation to advise you that this video is not aimed at children. My target audience is not children. Parental discretion is advised. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel and welcome to something different. As you can see, I have Tier Maker open here and I'll be doing a tier list. What I will be doing is ranking the playable characters in the Dynasty Warriors franchise. Now, real quick, it's just the Countermeasures Series 2 review is probably going to be late just because I took up some things that ended up taking way longer than I thought they would, and that's on me. So in the meantime, this is just something quick and fun to pass the time until I get that video up. Also, real quick about this, Dynasty Warriors is one of my favorite video game franchises. It actually might be my favorite video game franchise of all time. It's a fairly basic hack and slash game, get from point A on a map to point B, defeating as many enemies as you can. And it's also an adaptation of the ancient Chinese epic Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I really love this game. I really love this series. And so I just wanted to do this for fun. So, like I said, here is a list of I think there's close to 90, if not over 90 playable characters. And I will be ranking them based on my own feelings. I'm not going to set any parameters for myself because I'll just break them. So it's a fairly basic tier list, S being top tier characters I absolutely love to play as, and then descending A, B, C, C being meh, D, and F, F being characters I do not like at all, as well as this last category here in the gray. These are characters introduced in the most recent game, Dynasty Warriors 9, because I haven't played 9 yet. If I was smart, I would wait until I got a chance to play 9 before I did this, but it's me. I didn't. So, because I haven't played as these characters yet, those characters are just going to automatically go in this category. So, without further ado, we can start off the list, and judging by how everything is ordered here, we're going to start with the Kingdom of Wei. If you've never played a Dynasty Warriors game, I will try to give some information here. Also, be prepared because, there might be a lot of mispronunciations here. I'm going off of what I played most recently, which was Dynasty Warriors 8, which tried to get as many of the names as possible right, but, well, we'll see how we go. Oh, I am so nervous now. So first up, we have Zhang He. Now, Zhang He is an interesting character. I liked him okay in 3 and 4. And then the character was fine. The gameplay was fun. The claws were a decent weapon, and then something happened in 5. And that was, I think it was 5. He was voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. And I loved what Yuri Lowenthal brought to the character. I love how extravagant and flamboyant and over the top it made him. He was just so much fun. I think because he's fun I like the character more than I like the gameplay, I'll put him in A tier. Oh, I should have said this too before we began. Hopefully this will be quick because the Kingdom of Wei is my least favorite kingdom. I don't dislike it. There's quite a bit about it I do enjoy, but just generally, it's not one of the first kingdoms I'm clamoring to play as or its characters. And again, to the Wei fans who in this series, there's nothing against it. It's just, it doesn't click with me. It's always one of the weakest for me. There are some interesting characters. There are some fun characters to play as, but yeah. So next up, we have Zhang Liao. Zhang Liao is also tricky, because I didn't like when he had the Guandao in 3, 4, and 5. Did he have it in 2? I don't remember. But from 6 onward, when he got the twin axes, the twin halberds, I actually found him a lot more fun. I think it was also in the fact that in 6 onward, they tried to expand his story a lot more. I think I will also put him in A. Yue Jin. Now, Yue Jin, there's not quite a lot to talk about, just because he was only introduced in one game so far, Dynasty Warriors 8. At least one game that I've played. Again, we're not counting 9 at the moment. I think he was okay, but as part of his double act, and I'll get there more in a little bit, I think I like the other character more. Yeah, B. B is about right. Peng De. Now, Peng De I really liked in Dynasty Warriors 5. Again, just the twin halberds were such a good weapon. I do like him with the mace, though. His character is kind of lackluster. Yeah, I'll put him in B as well. Chu Huang. Meh. He's meh. Like, I haven't really played as him. He's not a character that really interests me. I like a lot of his character designs through the games, and his weapon, the Great Axe, is fun, but it's just... Yeah, I don't dislike him, but he's not one I really clamor to. Shun Yo. Shun Yo is, again, really difficult to decide for me. Just because he wasn't introduced in a main game, so to speak. You know, he was introduced in one of the spin-offs, Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires. His weapon was a lot of fun, but because of the nature of the Empires games, which are more sort of tactical, risk-style command and conquer, and there not being really any story, we didn't really get his story like we did a lot of the other characters on this list. So for that, despite being really fun to play as in Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, I'm probably going to put him, again, in C for meh. Now, Shun Yo. This one's really easy. Introduced in 9, and I haven't played 9. Oh, also, before I forget, wow, on Shun Yo here, in C tier, there's something I gotta say, but I'll wait a little bit later till we get to those other characters. Jahoe Yuan. Now, this one's yeah, he's an A tier. I didn't like Jahoe Yuan in 2 through 5, but from 6 onward, I really enjoyed him. I don't know if it was the voice actor or the character, or the fact that his story was just a little bit more involved. Just everything about him I found to be so much fun. Probably, from what I've seen in this franchise and this fandom around, the most popular Wei character now, Jahoe Yuan. And this is another tough one. I think I'm going to put him in B. I'm sorry, don't get mad. I like him a lot. He's really fun. I really liked his redesign in Dynasty Warriors 6. That was a lot of fun with the mace. But, again, it's just... I don't really feel very strongly for any of the Wei characters. Except for who we have next, Jia Shu. I really liked his moveset in 7 with the scythe. I loved his story. Yeah, he's an A tier. My big thing with Jia Shu, though, is I feel like he was really kind of underutilized in Dynasty Warriors 8. Probably because of our next character, Guo Jia. I like his weapon, but, we didn't really get a lot of time with him, it seems. In fact, in Dynasty Warriors 8 story mode, I think he was only available for one level, B tier. And that kind of brings me to the big thing with Jia Shu, Guo Jia, and Shun Yo. I don't like any of the Wei strategists. Like, generally, I find the strategist characters some of the most fun to play as, but because of what Dynasty Warriors 7 did, and we'll get there in a little bit, don't worry, it just feels like the strategists that have been made playable are trying to fill the void of another character. And it just comes off as being very obvious that that's what they're trying to do. And a little bit of spoilers for later on down the list. Given that is one of my favorite characters, it's just... Yeah, I'm sorry. Jia Shu has come the closest to me liking. he's really enjoyable, but yeah, just not the biggest fan of the Wei strategists from 7 onward. Shu Chu. I have never liked this character. He's slow. I don't like how he's sort of played as a simpleton. I kind of like that he's so happy-go-lucky compared to the rest of Wei, but yeah, beyond that, just never been a fan. Man Chong, another character who was introduced in 9. Wang Yi. Wang Yi, huh. Wang Yi is tough. Like, because I feel like, we have a little bit of a story with her wanting revenge against Ma Chao and one of the Shu officers, but I don't really think we've gotten a chance to expand on that. And, when I played I wasn't the biggest fan of the Trishula or the Emmy Piercers, which was her new weapon in Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires. But I didn't dislike her. I'll put her on D, like below average. Oh, Li Dian. So, Li Dian is the other half of the double act of Yue Jin and Li Dian. Sorry for those of you who watch my videos who are not Dynasty Warriors fans. I'm kind of ghosting over some of these really fast, and again, I'm sorry, but yeah. Li Dian is probably the only Wei character that I personally would put in S tier. Sai Wanja. Boy, that one I hope I'm saying right. I'm going to put her in F. She seems so useless as a character. Like, thinking about it, because she was first introduced in 7, so far she's only been in 7 and 8. I don't think she showed up in any story mode in 7 and 8 at all. So she only had her stages in conquest mode. And in 8, she similarly did not show up in any story mode until you played Wei's hypothetical route. A series of what-if stages. Her presence in the game just feels unnecessary and pointless. Grab a drink of water, excuse me. Zhenji. Zhenji's okay. I don't really like her gameplay style with the flute. I was playing 5 recently and played her story mode for the first time, and man, she's kind of difficult to play as, but she's an interesting character. She has some good designs throughout the series. I'll put her in B tier. She's okay. She's good. Now, Zhenji's husband, Cao Pi. Cao Pi is an A tier for me. I loved his weapon in 5, the double-sided sword. I have 6 special, but because, for the longest time, my experience with Dynasty Warriors 6 was the base game. I don't know what his new gameplay style is like. He was okay in 7, with the twin swords, and he was good in 8 again, but the problem is I don't think we get a lot of Cao Pi. I think because the Wei Kingdom is mostly focused on his father. Cao Ren. Another one I'd put just below average. I've never really played him, but his gameplay is fine. Nothing really more to say to that. Cao Shu. Again, introduced in 9. Now, given we just talked about Cao Pi and now we're on to his father, Cao Cao. Originally I used to not like Cao Cao at all. But again, starting in Dynasty Warriors 7 with its strong focus on the story, his character really improved for me. I love how I love the contrast, because the other kingdom stories, Shu and Wu, see him as the villain, and when you play the Wei story and get his side of things, he's actually a very compelling character. You know what? Along with Cao Pi, he's A tier. Dian Wei. I'm going to put him in B tier. He's fun to play as. He has a really good, tragic story. But that's really all there is to it. And the last character of the Wei Kingdom, Eugene, who only really showed up in Dynasty Warriors 8 Extreme Empires and was only available for 2 stages. So again, a character whose story we haven't really been expanded on. But I'm going to put him in S tier because his weapon, the Trident, was incredibly fun, and the way he played with it and its style was very unique. And now we're on to possibly my favorite kingdom. It's kind of tied. Just wait a little bit, we'll get there. The Kingdom of Shu, starting with Ma Chao. The Spear of Justice. The problem is that Ma Chao's kind of very one note. You know, he keeps bringing up his dedication to justice. And, well, that's really all there is to it in that regard. You know, after Xiao Ciao kills his father, he joins the Kingdom of Shu. But, like I said, there's not much to that. He is one of the better spear characters, I find, though. Which is especially interesting given that he's in a kingdom with the most iconic spear user in the game. I will probably put him in B. Next up, Ma Chao's cousin, Ma Dai. You know, his weapon is very unique, and I love the moveset to it. Again, the problem is that his story isn't really expanded on. And I feel like if his story was handled better, if the story aspects of his character were handled better, I'd probably like him a lot more. But as it stands, I'm going to put him in C tier. You know, just meh. Zhang Fei. Of the 3 Oath brothers, Liu Bay, Guan Yin, and Zhang Fei is probably the least interesting. You know, he doesn't, aside from his early appearances, he doesn't really do much until the Battle of Changban, with the events of the Changban Bridge. I do like his weapon, the Serpent Pike. In the more recent games, I don't like that it's become a dual-sided weapon. You know what? I'm going to put him in C tier. Again, just very meh. And next up, Zhang Fei's son, Zhang Bao. Oh, Zhang Bao. I really like... Again, same thing. He was only introduced in 8. He doesn't show up until towards the end of the game. So... he doesn't have the best story, but his weapon is a ton, with the arm blade, I think it was called, is a ton of fun. You know what? I'm going to put him in A tier. And sorry, given that there are, more than 90 playable characters, I'm trying to do these as fast as possible. Next up, the other spear user, and one of the most iconic characters in the entire franchise, because he is essentially the poster boy for the Dynasty Warriors franchise, Jahoe Yuan. Jahoe Yuan's okay. He's decent. There's not much more to say to that. I wish we kind of elaborated on his time with Gongsun Zan before he joined Liu Bei. But, I love his feats, how basically during the Battle of Changban, when the Shu forces were retreating, he rode backwards and through an army to save Liu Bei's infant son. I was originally going to put him in C tier for meh, but talking about it, I think I'll put him in B tier. Next up is Yue Ying. Yue Ying is another character that is fun, but she's also really underutilized. I feel like I've been saying that a lot, but again, over 90 playable characters, not all of them are going to get a spotlight. That being said, I didn't really like her in her first appearances. I didn't like her in 4 and 5. I loved her redesign in Dynasty Warriors 6. She was really good with the bow, but in 6 Special with the arm blades, because I'm now playing 6 Special for the first time, or the bladed bow, excuse me, her moveset is insane and not the best. But then, she got the bow staff in Dynasty Warriors 7, and she got her her scythe, essentially, again, in Dynasty Warriors 8. I'm probably gonna put her in... Oh, it's so tough. A. There, that'll be good. Wei Yan. I feel like this is a character that Tecmo Koei doesn't know what to do with, because the big thing about Wei Yan is his fragile alliances. Like, he was originally aligned to another warlord whom he betrayed to serve with Liu Bei. And then, essentially, towards one of the ending conflicts between the Shu and Wei kingdoms, the Battle of the Wuzhong Plains, Wei Yan sort of defected. He didn't defect to Wei, but he kind of turned on Shu. The problem is that Wei Yan's betrayal is never played well in any of the games, I think. And I think if that aspect of his story was done better, he'd probably be a little bit better too. I'm going to put him in D tier, just below average. Bao Senyang. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, but F. Again, like Sai Wanja for Wei, she's so useless. She didn't have a story mode at all in 7. As good as 7's story is, and I think it's the game that does the story mode the best, because it doesn't have a free mode and conquest mode isn't all that replayable, I feel like a lot of the side characters really suffered. I'm sorry, not side characters, but there are a lot of characters who you don't get to play as in the main story modes. And, just because throughout conquest mode, I just feel like those characters suffered. Fa Zheng, I think that's how you say it. Again, I think I'm saying a lot of these names wrong. Like Eugene in S here, he was only introduced in the Extreme Legends expansion pack for Dynasty Warriors 8. But again, like Eugene, I also really enjoyed him. Like, he was also lacking in story, but his fun gameplay made up for that. Peng Tong. I'm going to put him in A tier. He's a fun character, I find, like, given the grave situation the Kingdom of Shu is usually in, and the battles and everything, Peng Tong's happy-go-lucky attitude is kind of refreshing, but as far as a staff user goes, except in 8 when he had a unique weapon, I just like the other one more. Spoilers for further down the list, and that's really all I can say. Shu. Alright, so here's another problem I've had. Because I've mentioned this, I like playing as the strategist characters. And for the most part, they've been really, really good. The problem is, in the more recent games, I feel like Shu is oversaturated with strategists. Like, there are at least 2 more that we haven't gotten to yet. Yes, 2 more. Along with Shu and Peng Tong, who I already mentioned. And, like, as of right now, Shu was only ever in 1 battle. Again, that's just in the story mode. Shu was introduced in Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires, but, he was actually incorporated into the story with Dynasty Warriors 8. And that being said, his moveset is incredibly fun. Like, his moveset alone puts him at S tier for me. Like, it was so fun. Jahoe Ji. Again, another character introduced in 9. And from what I've read, I kind of hope they cut her from future games because I don't like the implications. For those of you who are Dynasty Warriors fans, boy, when I turned on my camera to record, I should have kept the cursor on, but I turned it off, so I'm sorry. Jahoe Ji is Jahoe Yuan's niece, Jahoe Yuan from the Kingdom of Wei. Because, again, I have my cursor turned off. He's in A tier, he's the 3rd character. However, Zhang Fei, the 4th character in C tier, kidnapped her and made her his wife. I don't like the implication. Alright, so moving on to the character list. Oh wow, introducing all 4 of his children before introducing him. Kind of a weird move, but okay. So first up, we have Yin Ping. Again, she was really underutilized in the story. She was only introduced in 8. But her moveset was plenty fun. I'm going to put her in A tier, yeah. Guan Xing. Again, with these next three characters like Yin Ping, I really wish they introduced their father first, because this would make it so much easier to talk about. I'm gonna put him in below average. He had a fun weapon. He was also only introduced in Dynasty Warriors 8, but he had a fun weapon. It's just, I feel he feels kind of, given the other Guan children, I feel like he's kind of unnecessary, and I feel like the only reason he's there is to kind of have a playable roster for the end of the Three Kingdoms era. Guan Ping. I've always found him kind of meh. Nothing more to say. And Guan Sua. I actually really liked him in 7, but again, like, because he was the one you really played as in the Battle of Fawn Castle, and seeing it from his perspective was really interesting and very tragic. But again, it's that problem of going from 7 to 8, he suddenly became really underutilized. But I did still find him a lot of fun. You know, I'll put him in B tier as well. I think of the Guan children, Guan Yin Ping is probably my favorite. But now we're on to their father, the god of war himself, Guan Yu. And Guan Yu is an S tier. Honestly, he is either my second or third favorite character to play as. Just because my favorite character is a tie right now. So because tied for first place, he's second place. Like, I've noticed in the games where you can play individual character stories, like Dynasty Warriors 3, Dynasty Warriors 5, and Dynasty Warriors 6, as opposed to games where you can play the story of the entire kingdom, Dynasty Warriors 4, Dynasty Warriors 7, Dynasty Warriors 8, Guan Yu is always the first character I play as. Like, he is always so much fun. I love his presence. I love his story. And, you know, there's real, like, I feel like the fact that I've said he's my second character to play as should be everything you need to know. Huang Zhang. I'm going to put him in C. He was fun in the early games in 3, 4, and 5. But then, and even 6, he wasn't fun in 6, even though he didn't have a story mode. But then in 7, they changed his character to use the bow, which, you know, is fitting. Huang Zhang is kind of famous as an archer. But the bow moveset was awful. So C tier is kind of the compromise. I don't like his gameplay in the current games, but I loved his gameplay in the earlier games. Jung Wei. Excuse me a sec. Jung Wei. Another Shu strategist. And I'm not entirely sure what I think of. He's okay enough, and again, similar to Guan Xing, it feels like he's only there to sort of have an opponent to face instead of generic officers towards the end of the Three Kingdoms era. But that being said, I do like his moveset, I do like his weapon, and so on. I think I'll put him in B. That's fine. Liu Bay. Where we had Xiao Ciao, A tier, 6th character in, the leader of the Wei Kingdom. Now we have Liu Bei, the leader of the Shu Kingdom. And the thing with Liu Bei, he's interesting. I didn't like him in his early appearances, just aesthetically speaking or gameplay-wise. But then his massive overhaul and redesign from Dynasty Warriors 6 through 8, I really enjoyed. It's been the most fun I've ever played as a character. And as a fun fact, it's also more accurate to Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Because in the early games, Liu Bei had sort of a rapier as a weapon, and then, 2 through 5. And then, starting in Dynasty Warrior 6, he used twin swords, which is what he used in Romance of the Three Kingdoms. And like I said, I just liked his design more. I'm going to put him in B tier. Again, of the 3 Oath Brothers, I like Liu Bei more than I like Zhang Fei. C tier, 4th one in. But I don't like him as much as I like Guan Yu. the last character in S tier at the moment. And now Liu Bei's son, Liu Shan. You know what? I'm going to put him in A tier. When I was playing he doesn't have a story mode of his own in 7, but when I was playing Conquest mode, he was kind of the character I played the most as. I found him a lot of fun, but again, he's also not used the best in 8. Boy, that's going to be a recurring theme of my commentary. Excuse me. But yeah, he was still fun to play as in 8. I just wish they do more with him, but same thing. He's kind of pivotal to the end of the Three Kingdoms. Xing Sai, Zhang Fei's daughter, adopted daughter. This one's tough. Like, so far, Dynasty Warriors 5 is the only one that really gave her some kind of story. But I didn't really like her moveset in 5 all that much. I'm going to put her in C tier. Just, again, meh. Now, the master strategist of the Shu Kingdom, and probably one of the most famous, Zhuge Liang, who was also Yue Ying's husband. A tier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Eighth one in. You know, I really like Zhuge Liang. Like, if we were specifically to go to just the Kingdom of Shu and not all the characters overall, he's probably my second favorite Shu character after Guan Yin. And the final character for the Kingdom of Shu, Zhou Cong. And again, this is an easy one. Which brings us to the Kingdom of Wu. Now, interestingly, the Kingdom of Wu used to be my favorite kingdom. You know, before, but I really love the story of the Kingdom of Shu from the later games. So first up, we have Da Qiao. You know, I'm going to put her in B. Like, I didn't like her in the early games, but when 8 basically gave her a new weapon, I think they were called the Pugil Sticks, I really liked her a lot more. I loved that moveset. And then next up, we have Zhu Shang, or Zhu Shang. And then, alright, again, another 9 character. Next up, we have the Pirate Guan Yin, or Tecmo Koei's favorite punching bag. So in the early games, 3, 4, and 5, was he in 2? I don't remember. As a pirate, Guan Yin had a cutlass. And then basically from 6 onward, it seemed like Tecmo Koei had no idea what to do with him in terms of gameplay-wise. Like, in 6, he used a pair of twin daggers. In 7, he used the chain and sickle as his main weapon. And then in 8, he used a chain flail. Like, Guan Yin in the more recent games has become really inconsistent. I think because of that, I'm going to put him in B. I mean, so far, of his various designs and gameplay styles, 6 has been my favorite and continues to be my favorite, but man, they need to make a choice. Tecmo Koei needs to make a choice with Guan Yin and stick with it. Han Dong. Han Dong was when I first played 8, Han Dong was a very interesting character. He was very fun, but I think I just got bored of him so fast. If memory serves, because he's also only been in one game, Dynasty Warriors 8, as far as the Wu Kingdom story goes, I think he is the most recurring playable character. I think he has more stages where you can play as him than anyone else. And like I said, by his 5th appearance, I just got really bored with him. I think D tier. Like, I started disliking him, but I don't outright dislike him at all. Huang Gai. A character who, who needs new life breathed into him, essentially. Like, he's really good in the early stages of the game, really active, but then after the Battle of Chirbi and the fire attack, he just kind of fades away. Yeah, he's meh. Like, there's not much more to say. The fact that in 8 he fights with a boat is kind of fun, and there's a fun moveset to that, but yeah, no, just like I said, the fact that he's only relevant to half the game, and even when he's still present in the second half, he's just not important. Lian Shi is next, and I like the crossbow more than I like the bow. I will say that, but the crossbow, at least for me and how I play the games, is still really difficult to use. I'm probably going to put her in D for that. I really wish I'd play 9 to see how her character was redone, but as of right now, until I get that knowledge, she's D tier. Liu Shan. I'm sorry, he's F for me. Just, again, with my gameplay style and how I play these games, for me, Liu Shan was the hardest character to play as. Like, if his attack and defense were higher, first of all, he does not take damage well. Like, I think he takes massive amounts of damage. But if his attack was better, I'd consider calling him a glass cannon, but it really wasn't. Like, in 3, 4, and 5, Liu Shan was so hard to play as. The only time I liked playing as Liu Shan was in Dynasty Warriors 6. With his rapier type weapon. I forget what it was, but I also liked him in Dynasty Warriors 7, where he shared the twin swords with Liu Bay and Cao Pi. His gameplay style, his moveset was really easy to use there. But then in 8, when they gave him the Swallow Swords, that moveset was, again, really difficult for me and how I play these games. So, yeah, I've just never liked Liu Shan. But unlike Sai Wanja and Bao Sunyang, who were kind of pointless, and Shu Chu, who I just didn't like, Liu Shan is because I did not like his play style. Lu Su is up next, and like from the second he showed up in 8, I really liked him. I liked his character. I liked his design. His weapon was a rake, and that's kind of hilarious, but it was so fun to play as, and it's such a fun weapon to use. Like, I don't have to think about this. Lu Su is S tier for me. Lu Meng. Lu Meng has kind of an interesting story. He's like Liu Shan, which I forgot to mention this. He's one of the Wu strategist characters, but he wasn't always like that. He started off as kind of a barbaric warrior, but he was admonished for that. So he dedicated himself to study, and then he essentially rejoined the battle as a learned man. I wish the games focused on that story some more, but they don't. That being said, I do really like Lu Meng's design, especially in the later games. Like from 6 on, like after his massive redesign and overhaul in 6, from 6 onward, I've really liked his design and some of his gameplay. I think I'll put him in A tier for that. Ling Tong. Ling Tong is Gan Ning's rival, the last character in B tier right now. Again, I'm just letting the people who regularly watch my videos, if you're not familiar with Dynasty Warriors, I'm just letting you know where those characters are. But, aside from being Gan Ning's rival, I don't really think they've expanded on him. His gameplay style is okay, but it's not really the best. Yeah, he's meh. It's between B and C, and that could change on an instant, but he's kind of B tier for me. Xiao Ciao. Da Qiao's sister. Give me a second. B tier, second to last. And yeah, let's see. I've just never been a fan of her. Again, like Da Qiao, because in the earlier games they shared similar movesets. But, whereas in 8, Da Qiao got the pugil sticks and a better gameplay style, Xiao Ciao was stuck with the fans, and yeah, I'm sorry, I just never liked her. Zhou Tai. Zhou Tai is an incredibly fun character, and it's really hard to talk about some of these characters I found out because some of their relationships to other characters are characters I haven't talked about yet. I haven't sorted yet. So I have to. So, it's kind of hard to talk around without spoiling things. Also, because again, for those of you who have not played Dynasty Warriors, you won't know what I'm talking about. So I'll just say Zhou Tai has great designs. Dynasty Warriors 6 is my favorite. Dynasty Warriors 6 is not my favorite game, but it is my favorite aesthetic. I still think, even now, on Dynasty Warriors 9, Dynasty Warriors 6 had the best designs for the characters. His weapon was only okay in that, but I loved his katana in 4, 5, 7, and 8 so much more. You know what? Just because his gameplay style is so awesome, I'll put him in S. Now, probably the most... So, I've talked about Lu Meng, the last character in A tier, and Lu Xuan, the second to last character in F tier, and Lu Su, the second to last character in S tier. Did I do that right? Lu Meng, last character in A tier, Lu Xuan, second to last character in F tier, and Lu Su, second to last character in S tier. So now it's time to talk about the most famous of the Wu strategists, Zhou Yu. And so here's the thing. In the early games, 3, 4, and 5, again, I just don't remember about 2, Zhou Yu had a sword, essentially. I forget what kind of sword it was. Might have been some kind of scimitar or cutlass or something. I don't remember. But then in 6, his character was another one that got a massive overhaul. So from 6 onward, Zhou Yu used the bow staff. And I love that gameplay style so much more. Just because, I think it's because a lot of characters have swords, and even changing the design and gameplay styles, a sword is still a sword. But yeah, I've loved him so much more ever since his design in Dynasty Warriors 6 and then onward. I actually also think of the strategist characters, Zhou Yu is one of the most underrated. Not the most underrated. I think that would actually be Lu Meng, but I do think he ranks highly up there. You know what? I'm going to put him in A tier. Juran. So like Eugene, second character in S tier, and Fa Zheng, where's he? Shoot. Oh, shoot, I lost him. No. Oh, third character in S tier. Juran was a new character introduced in the Extreme Legends expansion for Dynasty Warriors 8. And unlike Eugene and Fa Zheng, I didn't like Juran. Like, his character was really fun, but his gameplay style with the fire bow was awful. Just... there was no way to aim. It didn't really have crowd control. It was not a fun experience at all. I'm sorry. And now we're on to Sun Jian. He, like Liu Bay and Xiao Ciao, I'm done trying to keep track of where they are. I'm sorry. The Dynasty Warriors franchise considers him the sort of founder of the Kingdom of Wu. As we go on through the rest of the Wu Kingdom, I'll kind of explain why that's not quite accurate, but he was always one of my favorites, especially his Dynasty Warriors 6 through 8 incarnation. Especially Dynasty Warriors 8. His weapon, the 9-ring sword, so much fun to play as. Boy, I sound like a broken record. He's A tier. That's all there is to it. Now, next up, Sun Jian's youngest son, Sun Quan, who is actually the founder and the iconic leader of the Kingdom of Wu, because Sun Jian and then his eldest son, we're getting there, both died really early, even before the Kingdom of Wu was officially established. So it was Sun Quan who really led the kingdom in its foundation. And I love that that in Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8, those games give him that focus, but I don't think his gameplay style in those games is as fun. I like his gameplay style in the early games more, but I do like his design in the later games, along with his story, as I mentioned. Yeah, I'll give him A tier. And then Sun Jian's firstborn son and Sun Quan's older brother, Sun Ce. Sun Ce's B tier. His weapon, the Tonfas, is okay. I find that the gameplay style for them actually varies from game to game. So he's kind of inconsistent. Not as inconsistent as Gan Ning, B tier, right before him though. And then Sun Quan and Sun Ce's sister and Sun Jian's daughter, Sun Shangxiang. Been talking a lot. I'm starting to get all tongue-tied. She's okay. It's hard to figure out what I feel about her. I'll probably just put her in C tier for meh. I didn't like her in 3 through 5. I really liked her in 6. That's kind of the only time, because I kind of talked about Huang Zhang and Lian Shi about this, but I really liked the bow moveset for her in 6. And then when they gave her the Chankram again in 7 and 8, I liked it a lot more there than I did in 3 through 5. And I also like that they expanded on her story and the fact that she married the ruler of Shu, Liu Bay. Alright, next up, and we're almost done with Wu here, Tai Shutsu. Where am I going to put Tai Shutsu? So Tai Shutsu started off, how do I want to say this? Where do I want to put this? So the last character in B tier right now, Sun Ce. He set out to conquer the lands of Wu for their kingdom. And he dueled Tai Shutsu, and Tai Shutsu, liked this guy and decided to join the Kingdom of Wu. I am really oversimplifying it. It's tough because Tai Shutsu is okay. He's not a character I regularly clamor to though. Okay. Because of that, I'll put him in meh. Ding Feng. Ding Fe is kind of meant to be Sun Quan's bodyguard. He's okay. I liked him in 7 more when he had the gauntlets. But then, in 8, when they decided every character needed a weapon of their own, I didn't really like his weapon, the circle blade, I think it was. If you've never played these games, when I talk about some of these weapons, it must sound so weird not knowing what I'm talking about. He's a D tier. Maybe lower, but I've just never been a big fan of him. And the final character of the Wu Kingdom, Chung Poo. Again, another 9 character. Okay, almost done. So we technically have 2 kingdoms left, but they are only grouped together. So first, we have the Kingdom of Jinn, or as I like to kind of jokingly call it, Wei Part 2. So within the kingdom, towards the end of the 3 Kingdoms era, within the Kingdom of Wei, basically the 3 kingdoms started falling apart, and starting within the Kingdom of Wei, a new power rose up, conquering, the other, which essentially conquered Wei from the inside out, and then conquered Shu, and then conquered Wu, ending the era of the 3 kingdoms and starting the Jin dynasty. That's where it gets its name from. And also mixed through, because the Kingdom of Jinn, quote unquote, was only introduced in Dynasty Warriors 7, it's still got a really small roster right now. So in a lot of promotional stuff, like this tier maker, even though this isn't official, or DLC and stuff, Jin is often just grouped with other. Simply put, other are just smaller, minor factions and characters and stuff not aligned to the 3 kingdoms. And even though they played major roles, their roles were really too small to actually elaborate on. So if you were to play any of these characters, you wouldn't go to Wu, Wei, Shu, or Jin. You'd just go to other, where they're all grouped together, because in the grand scheme of things, their factions were not that big. So first up, we have a Jin character, Wen Yang. I'm sorry, I have to put him in F. He's just a Zhao Yun clone. B tier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, eighth character. And, in 8, I did not like Wen Yang's weapon, the javelin. It was very linear and there was no crowd control to it. And then now we're going to an other character, Chen Gong, who so far has only been in one game, Dynasty Warriors 8. But his weapon, the command scroll, is a ton of fun. And you know what? Here, just S tier. Like, I really like Chen Gong. Like, he was so much fun. His character was really enjoyable. Zhang Jiao is next. And so Zhang Jiao is kind of the event that sets off the entire series of Romance of the Three Kingdoms. So, during the fall of the Han Dynasty, Zhang Jiao notices the common people are suffering. So he has them, he unites them all together and tries to make them rise up, taking yellow scarves and tying them around their head or such in allegiance. This event is called the Yellow Turban Rebellion. And in most games, the Yellow Turban Rebellion is the first stage you play. And Zhang Jiao is the leader of the Yellow Turbans. Also, because it's the first major event, when you play as Zhang Jiao, his story is often the most hypothetical. Just, again, because it's the first battle and you usually kill him. And historically, he died during the Yellow Turban Rebellion. So, his story plays beyond that. Remember when I talked about Peng Tong? A tier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ninth character in. I mentioned that in the earlier games, Peng Tong uses staff, but I liked the other staff user more. That is Zhang Jiao. He is an immediate S tier for me. And still sticking with the other faction, quote unquote, Dio Chan. Oh, this one's going to be really tough to talk about. Again, just because the other characters that are important to her are further down the list. But, Dio Chan's kind of the femme fatale type character. It's interesting. In the early games, 2 through 5, I didn't like her. I didn't like the twin maces at all, the weapon she used. But then, in 6, she was one of those characters that had a massive overhaul. And they gave her a new weapon she's used since then, the chain whip. I also like how the games from 6 onward have really expanded on her story. How her father used her to depose a tyrant, and, the person she was trying to pit that tyrant against, she kind of fell in love with. I love her story. Oh, shoot. Here, I'm going to sort Dio Chan first. She goes between S and A for me. It's really tough to decide, so I'm just going to put her in A tier. That reminds me. So remember how I said the Kingdom of Shu was tied for my favorite kingdom? Again, just because of the hypotheticals and how insane things can get, the quote-unquote other faction, is my other favorite kingdom. It's the one Shu is tied with. So we're finally back to another Jin character, Zhang Chun Hwa. Excuse me. Again, I've been talking for a while. I'm starting to get a little tongue-tied and stuff. Oh, I loved Zhang Chun Hwa in 8. I just loved, even though she had this really happy smile on her face, she was always very conniving. She was so much fun, and her weapon was a lot of fun too. Yuan Shu, another 9 character. Yuan Xiao. Yeah, he's below average for me. I do like it, again, like a lot of the characters, I like him after his massive overhaul in Dynasty Warriors 6 and onward. But Yuan Xiao's okay. Compared to some of the other characters, he's not one I particularly like. Jia Chong. So this is another Jin character. He's kind of played more as kind of the dark, brooding anti-hero sort of archetype. For the character that would become the eventual ruler of Jin, the idea is, at least as he kind of says it in 8, you need to be the ruler. You need to be the face of the kingdom. I'll be behind your back. I'll be the monster. And I do really like that aspect of him. And his weapon is a lot of fun too. You know what? He's an A tier for me. Jahoe Ba. So for me, he's D tier. He's really below average. And it's just because he should not be a Jin character. So Jahoe Ba is Jahoe Yuan's son. A tier third character in. But sort of after the events of the Jin storyline, or as I like to say, Wei Part 2, Jahoe Ba defects, worried for his life. So really just him being in Jin in every game feels out of place. He really should be a Shu character. Guo Huai is next. And Guo Huai is a ton of fun. He has a really good moveset with the arm cannon. And, you know, I think the whole fact that he's dying of illness basically the entire Jin story, I think that's kind of overdone, but man, is his moveset fun. Okay. Oh, wow. It's getting so big I have to scroll down now to keep up with the list. Hua Xiong is next. And again, this is another 9 character. As far as characters introduced in 9, we only have one left, so don't worry. Meng Hua. So, okay, first of all, this is another other character. Oh shoot, I forgot to mention that. Oh well, too late now. Meng Hua. How do I feel? You know what? I really can't put this one in words. I'm sorry, but he's B tier. He's okay. He's not the best, and there are other characters I'd play as, but when I do play as him, I have a good time. Now we're going back to the Kingdom of Jinn with Wang Yuanji. Now, Yuanji can be a ton of fun. She's also, I kind of discovered this in Dynasty Warriors, well, through all her appearances. She first made her appearance in Dynasty Warriors 7, and then she was in 8, of course, and Warriors Orochi 3, a kind of fantasy series spin-off Tecmo Koei also does. Wang Yuanji is really easy to cheese the game with. Like, her weapon is the throwing knives, and the thing is, the throwing knives, while not the strongest, they also don't have any knockback, so, you know, when you're hitting guards, you're just kind of hitting them. They aren't getting affected by it, even though you still do damage. But the throwing knives have really good spread, so if you go into a crowd of enemies and just start attacking, you'll fill up your rage meter really fast. So, and because you can get all sorts of bonuses when you use your Muso Rage in Dynasty Warriors 8 or whatever the Rage Attacking Warriors Orochi 3 is called, like, as Yuanji, I don't think, when I've used Yuanji, I don't think I've used a Rage Attack less than 10 times. Like I said, she is so easy to grind with. You know what? A tier. And then here we go. The strong... First of all, we're back to the other faction. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Jin characters left, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other characters left. Okay, we're going back to other real quick with the strongest character in the game. Liu Bay. Liu Bay's S tier. Like, I really like that he got his own story mode in Dynasty Warriors 8. It was really fun, and it kind of expanded on him more than being just this barbaric monster. That's kind of still what he is, and that's ultimately what got him killed, but, you know, sometimes after, you know, trying to play through so much of the game and grind and try to unlock everything, it's fun to just unwind with the strongest character in the game and mow everyone down. And then next up is Liu Bu's daughter, Liu Lingqi. Another S character. Like, I love that she brought back the cross pikes, which were Liu Bu's weapon in Dynasty Warriors 6, as opposed to his usual halberd. But, you know, she's I think there's more they could do with her, but she is really fun to play as. All right, so I mentioned this. Guan Yu, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, S tier, fifth character in, is my second favorite character in the game. Because now we're on to my favorite character. Again, another other faction character, Zhuo Tzu. Now, I mentioned this, he is tied with Zhang Jiao. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. S tier, 10th one in, is my favorite character to play as. That's partially with the games themselves, but also partially just a general thing with me. I tend to gravitate towards wizard and mystic characters. So Zhang Jiao and Zhuo Tzu are two of my favorite characters to play as in this series. So especially in 5 and Dynasty Warriors 5 and Dynasty Warriors 8, Zhuo Tzu's previous appearances, you know, when he used the mystic deck as his weapon, just a deck of enchanted cards. Really, I know it sounds silly, but they are really fun. All right, now we're back to Jin with essentially the founder of the Jin kingdom, so to speak, Sima Yi. Now, so earlier when I talked about Jiaxu, Guojia, and Shun Yo, I mentioned that they were, because of the Kingdom of Jinn, they now had to fill in the role of Wei strategist because the iconic Wei strategist was now in another kingdom. And that is Sima Yi. You know, essentially his family is the one that founds the Jin dynasty and essentially ends the three kingdoms. And I have to say, and I already kind of hinted at this, of the strategist characters, I'm not going to hunt them all down, so I'll just list them off. Zhuge Liang, Xu Shu, Lu Su, Zhang Wei, Peng Tong, Chen Gong. Oh god, there's too many of them. Lu Meng, Lu Xuan, and I think that's all of them. Of all of the strategist characters, Sima Yi is my favorite. And then next up, we have his eldest son, Sima Shi. Shi is okay. I feel like, again, it's this thing of he doesn't have enough time given to him. Like, after Sima Yi sort of dies, or leaves the story, depending on which game you're playing, Sima Shi takes over, and then he similarly sort of fades out after an attempt on his life. Like, it takes a little bit, but he does eventually succumb to his injuries. But he's okay. You know, in his introduction in Dynasty Warriors 7, he used the rapier, but then in Dynasty Warriors 8, he got his own weapon, the lightning sword, which is so much more fun. He's A tier. And then next up, Sima Yi's second son, Sima Shi's younger brother, and essentially the first king of Jin, of the Jin dynasty, Sima Zhao. He's interesting because, you know, like, because his father and his brother are the ones being ambitious, he's kind of just the lazy one. But, you know, who sort of has responsibility thrust upon him. But, you know, so essentially he goes through the story kind of finding everything a bit of a drag until he essentially has to grow up. He just has kind of a basic move set. I'm going to put him in meh. He's fun and he's important to the series, but just, he's fine. Oh, I have to scroll down a little bit because the tiers got too big again. So next up is Xin Xianying. Again, another character introduced in 9, and I haven't played 9. All right, and then next up we have Zhuge Dan. So Zhuge Dan is a descendant of Zhuge Liang, the Shu strategist, and he found himself allied with the Wei Kingdom. However, because of disagreements with the Suma clan, the games specifically kind of make it Sima Jiao, but I don't know what it was like historically. He defects and joins Wu, and he is killed while rebelling. Zhuge Dan is okay. I like him more with the feather fan like Zhuge Liang uses, but his weapon in 8, because his weapon in 8 uses a lot of grapples, and it doesn't really work with his character. I I don't feel strong. I don't feel all that attached to him though, you know? Like if I'm going to use a character who uses the feathered fan, I'm going to use Zhuge Liang or Sima Yi first. Again, except in 8 when they try to eliminate weapon clones by giving everyone a unique weapon of some sort. You know what? I'm also going to put him in C. And next up is Zhang Hui. Zhang Hui is really fun. Like his weapon, the floating swords, are so unique, and they are a blast to play with. I don't think his story is used the best, just because he's a very treacherous character, but his treachery comes out of nowhere. I think I'm gonna put him in A tier for right now. If they worked on the treachery aspect of his character and sort of built up his betrayal and rebellion, I think he'd be a little better. And next up, another other faction character, Zhu Rong. So go to B tier, the last character right now, Meng Hua. Zhu Rong is his wife, and just whenever I do play, whenever the games give you a chance to play as the Nanman, I think Zhu Rong is the better character to play as. Although Meng Hua and Zhu Rong are fun together as husband and wife, yeah, no, that's really all there is to it. I think Zhu Rong is just a little bit more fun to play as. Almost done, 3 characters left. So starting up is the last of the Jin characters, Dong Ai. Dong Ai, again, in 7 and 8, is just really fun. His weapon, this kind of drill lance, because even though these games were set in China, they do not operate on real-world logic. It's okay. Like, it's got great crowd control. His moveset is insanely fun to use. I think I'm going to put him in A tier. Like, not quite S, but I don't regret playing as him. Finally, the last 2 characters, and both of them are other faction characters. So first, we have Dung Bai, introduced in 9, and as I've said, I haven't played 9. And finally, Dong Zhuo, the second major threat after Zhang Jiao and the Yellow Turban Rebellion. And as I kind of mentioned with Lu Bu and Dio Chan, because, well, no, let me rephrase that. He was such a threat because he had Lu Bu on his side. S tier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13th character in. And which essentially led to, the minister Wang Yuan using his daughter, Dio Chan, A tier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th character in. Dio Chan pitted Lu Bu and Dong Zhuo against each other, eventually convincing Lu Bu to murder Dong Zhuo. So, really, as far as these games go, and in trying to be morally gray, Dong Zhuo is really the closest the game gets to a villain. And again, it's also tough to consider. When Dong Zhuo in the early games used a sword or a cutlass, but then, kind of a similar problem to Guan Yin. It seems like Tecmo Koei didn't know what they wanted to do with him. So they kept changing things. So in 6, he had a club. And then in 7, he used a chain flail. And then in 8, he used bombs. And I have to say, the bomb moveset worked so well for him. It was so much fun. It's honestly the most fun I've ever had playing as Dong Zhuo. But because, again, he's also very inconsistent, like Guan Yin, I'm going to have to put him in B tier. And let's see if I can get this all on screen. There you have it. This is my tier list for all the playable characters in the Dynasty Warriors franchise. I know this was a bit of a long video, and I know I didn't do anything entertaining to help, like background music or anything, but what did you think? Have you played the Dynasty Warriors games? Drop a conversation in the comments. I'd really love to talk with other people who've played these games. And you know, all the usual stuff. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video around. All of it helps my channel grow. And in the description box below this video, you'll find the link to my Twitter where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.